John. I'm sick. But I told Sam that I would guest host this podcast, YouTube show thing. So we're going to do it. All right? Let's see. Let's get this up. Cat 4 is bad and woke. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Film Fan Club show. I'm Sam Carrico. Let's talk about Marvel. Yes, against my wishes, they've done it again. Captain America, Brave New World is out, and even superheroes can't escape the consequences of bad writing. Honestly, I went in expecting an epic battle between good and evil, maybe a couple of snarky remarks between heroes, but instead, I got a Marvel-themed episode of The West Wing. Leave me alone, Aaron Sorkin. The plot. Oh, where do I begin? Starting with President Thaddeus Ross. Now, what a choice. They say you can't bring politics into the superhero world. Who says that? Whatever. But here we are, getting our daily dose of vote for me or I'll Hulk out. Wait, is the president the Hulk? That's kind of cool. This movie is so woke it makes me feel like I'm watching a TED Talk while my skin is peeling off. Can someone explain to me how we went from Captain America throwing a shield to Captain America sitting around a table discussing a treaty over adamantium? Wasn't that like half of Civil War? Was like, I don't care. Seriously, that's the plot? Oh no, the world leaders are fighting over a new metal. Let's all sit down and talk it out. Where are the laser beams, the aliens, the godlike beings? Okay, now, listen. Me, personally, John, I don't care about any of that. I remember when everybody was talking about Marvel fatigue and superhero fatigue, specifically because of all the laser beams and aliens and shit. So, like, I'm not worried about that. I, however, did not see Captain America. So without being able to talk about the specifics, my guess is that the critical reviews are overly critical and the positive reviews are overly positive. And the reality about, what it is lies somewhere in between. My suggestion would be to also not go see it. I think that whether or not it's good, Disney and Marvel could stand to have like 200 fewer people pay money to see their movies, right? And frankly, if I'm being honest, if you wait, you can watch them for free. Wink, 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 right? So, like, you don't have to give Disney any of your money as long as you're okay with not being on the cutting edge of whatever's happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which, frankly, why wouldn't you be, right? Who cares what's happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I kind of want to see Thunderbolts because I liked the Thunderbolts comic when I was buying and reading comics, which I'm not anymore, for the same reason that I don't go see Marvel movies, right? Because the interconnectedness of it is a gimmick to get you to see all of them. I'm not interested, right? And especially not interested if I don't think it's going to be particularly good, right? Fuck it. You don't have to go see every Marvel movie. Don't do it. You could instead spend money. This episode's going to be cool because the rest of the episode isn't about Marvel. Don't worry. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I have an interview with Ron Placone. He's got an upcoming film. It's called Left at Wall. It's pretty good. It's not upcoming. It is out now. You can watch it. We talk about where in the interview. Check it out. And you can spend your money on that instead of going to go see Captain America, whatever. Right? Great. Now, am I done? Let's see, what else? I was going to do a bit where I looked up. In short, Captain America 4 isn't a Brave New World. It's a cluttered, confusing neighborhood where we can't even find parking. With the whole multiverse of superhero stories at our fingertips, can we stick to musicals about crazed clowns? Okay, we've got a great show. Now that Joker 2 was great. If you didn't like Joker 2, fuck off, you're wrong. Even though there's no objective truth about whether or not anything is good. Oh, I'm sick. All right, listen, that's it. I'm done. Bye. Hello, Film Fan Club. I'm here today with Ron Placone. We're going to talk about Left at Wall, his new feature film that is available to rent and buy on Apple TV. How you doing, Ron?
Good, man. Thanks for having me back. Good to see you. Good to do a follow-up. And yeah, I'll also mention it's on Apple TV, it's on YouTube Movies, it's on Google Play, it's on Xbox, and it recently, as of yesterday, it is now on Amazon.
Oh.
And you can buy it on DVD. So it's not just Apple TV. It's just been a gradual rollout as these things always are. So
Cool. So in the last interview, let's just get right into it. In the last interview, you talked about your pilot, Loner, which is the first episode of a web series you were making.
it was the first episode of a web series I was hoping to make. We never made another one. I mean, we kind of just put the pilot out there to see what would happen, and then we didn't really get any bites, so we just kind of moved on to different things. I would have liked to have made the whole thing. I mean, I wrote it in 3 parts, so I would have liked to have made the whole thing, and maybe I still will in some capacity, but as of now, that's all there is for Loner.
Okay. When I watched Loner, I watched Loner and then I watched Left at Wall. In the
Hmm.
interview that you did with Sam about Loner, you described it as a guy going through self-discovery in the with a backdrop of COVID. And I
Yeah.
noticed that Left at Wall has kind of similar themes, but with the Game Bites short sell instead of COVID. Do you feel that way about it?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's I think that's a pretty fair observation. There are a few parallel things between the two of them, which I guess is kind of neat. I mean, some people notice some different things. Another thing somebody noticed that I actually didn't even hit me, but was a really cool observation was they noticed that in both cases the character there's something having to do with finance. And in the case of Loner, it's a guy who had a chance to invest in something and didn't. In the case of Left at Wall, it's a guy who took a chance on the GameStop thing, which is called Game Bites in the fictional world of Left at Wall. But it's inspired by the GameStop story.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that there's like so was it intentional to have them both be kind of self-discovery journeys? Is that a narrative concept that you like exploring in your work, or did it just happen out that way?
I think it just happened out that way. I mean, it's not like I went about with that as my agenda, like, oh, this is going to be about self discovery. It's just, I wrote Loner, during the pandemic, or during the lockdown portion of the pandemic, and I kind of thought, what would be a really fun backstory of somebody who is just really feeling the regrets of their life and trying to figure themselves out while they're kind of cooped up alone. And I kind of got the idea of, well, everybody is using Zoom right now. We still are. What if somebody could have invested in that back in the day and they didn't? So we made a fictional world. It's called Vroom instead of Zoom, but basically the guy's ex-girlfriend, who is the true love of his life, who he let get away, she invented Vroom and asked him to help her, and he chose not to for whatever reason. So that's sort of the backdrop of all that, and he's sort of going through that self-discovery because he's just kind of cooped up in his apartment alone and has a lot of time to do so. Whereas Left at Wall, I got that idea when the GameStop thing happened. I started writing that screenplay pretty much like shortly after it happened. Our trailer was up by August, our first trailer, August of 2021, and the event happened in January of 2021. And in that case, I just thought it was such a wild event when it happened, and the world's reaction to it was pretty funny in many ways. So I thought it'd be fun to just write a fictional movie that sort of nods to that event, through the backdrop of two feuding siblings, which is, what Left at Wall is. I mean, people are familiar with the GameStop story, so they probably can anticipate how it's going to unroll. But and my cat Lucy is saying hello, by the way. And yeah, so it wasn't necessarily like a deliberate thing, like I sat down with that intention. But yeah, that's a common theme throughout both of them, which I think is a pretty common theme in, a lot of stories. I mean, what's that theory? It's like there's only really 10 stories in the world, and
Yeah.
we're all just telling various versions of them.
hmm in you also mentioned in that interview about Loner that you were looking to do Left at Wall at festivals and stuff. Is that still a thing, or I don't know how distribution rights and stuff work for that?
Well, yeah, that part of Left at Wall is over. We
Mm.
did screenings and festivals. We did the San Pedro International Film Festival, which is also the neighborhood where Left at Wall was filmed. And we did the Da Vinci International Film Festival in Los Angeles. And then we did a screening run. We did screenings in, I hope I get it all right. There's not a ton of cities, but I always, for some reason, just blank on one. Washington, D.C., Tucson, Arizona. I was not at that one. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, uh, Los Angeles, California, Idlewild, California, London, England. And what we did for some of the screenings, I wasn't even there. It was just like a film group or something that screened the movie. But a lot of them, I was there. And what we would do is we would kind of do an event where there'd be a stand-up show, a short stand-up show to open the night. Then we would screen the film, and then we would do a Q&A after. So that was a lot of fun. There were a lot of comics, myself included, that were part of the Left at Wall cast. So we kind of made an event out of it more so than just here's the movie. So that was fun. I'm glad we did it. Screenings are a lot of fun. They're also a ton of work. But in this case, I'm glad I did it. I'm working on my next feature now. I don't think I will do screenings with that one unless there's an opportunity that really warrants it. But in the case of Left at Wall, I'm glad we did the festival screening route. And I'm also glad that it's over, and I'm glad that we're at distribution now. And really, like at this point, it's just getting the word out about the movie, trying to get the most out of distribution. If there's certain territories where there's a demand for it and they're not in there, going to try to make sure we get it in there. And yeah, my cat keeps meowing like she wants me to pick her up, but then when she gets in arm's reach, she'll like just kind of bounce. So I don't know how it
I
is
feel like
she
that's
wants.
classic cat.
Yeah, come here. If you want to be picked up, come here. Yeah, she wants attention. Well, she's in the movie. I mean, she's in Loner too. Lucy makes an appearance in Loner and it Left at Wall. So
hmm
maybe here she is. Maybe she just wants to make sure that everyone gets to meet another cast member.
Hi, Lucy.
So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty new to this world. I mean, I know y'all have been doing your podcast for a long time. I didn't get involved in the film world until basically 2022, really.
Mm.
I was always just in the stand-up comedy and writing world and in the podcasting world, which it's been it's been a little trippy for me because I'm so used to I don't want to say instantaneous gratification, but sort of like a hyper quick, it's getting out there. Like when you do stand-up comedy, it's sort of the quickest response to your art you can ask for. You deliver a joke, people either laugh or they don't. And same with like podcasting and stuff like that, especially since a lot of my stuff was in the political comedy space. So you're always really quick because you got to be topical, you know?
hmm
So stuff was always within a 24 to 48-hour window. And that's been my creative life for the past, I mean, I guess going on 15 years. So this kind of transition into production where, you got two things. I mean, right now I have two completely new things in production. Left at Wall just officially came out. I mean, it just officially came out a week ago, or about a week ago today. It came out on the 24th. So that's approximately a week ago as of the recording of this. So it's kind of a am I allowed to curse here?
Uh, I think so. And if you're not, Sam will edit it out a little bit.
All right.
That's
Well,
fine.
I won't make Sam's job harder. I'll use a different word. It's kind of like a like just a mind like it messes with your mind a little bit to just be in such a different such a different time schedule of things instead of just like, hey, this thing's out and it's going to be topical and prominent for 24 to 48 hours. It's like, hey, this thing is out and it has been it's been years in the making, and now I'm working on two other things, but I'm talking about this one thing, and then there's this other thing that, I mean, you asked me about Loader today. I haven't thought about Loader in a while, um but yeah, it's out there too, and people are still watching it, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's just a different way of doing things that somebody like me who's so used to the polar opposite, it's a bit of a mind melt. That's what I was looking for, mind melt.
Mm.
The first word that came to my mind was like mind expletive, but I don't want to make Sam's job more difficult, so I'll keep it FCC compliant just in case that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what he does with the interviews. I know when we record podcasts, I curse, so it's probably fine though.
All right, mind melt works just as good. People, yeah, they get it. The people at
Yeah.
home get it. So,
So it's pretty impressive that you were able to get both a pilot and a feature film made for being that, you said new to the film world. I mean, that's pretty impressive. What was that like going into that? I mean, you kind of talked about how it feels so different, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciate you say that. I have nothing to compare it to, so I don't know if it's
mm,
impressive or not. I just know that I I wanted to kind of take this dive. I wanted to kind of get into this world. And with Loner, I mean, that was just my first learning how to crawl. Like I had no idea how to make something at that level. But what happened is a colleague of mine said, look, you need to, I was writing a lot of scripts like everyone does in LA, and then just, trying to get them sold. And then if they didn't get sold, oh well, on to the next thing. And that's kind of the game here. And that game is in some ways completely crumbling. I mean, the industry is going through a lot of changes here. So you really need to make something. So you need to write something that you're able to make, like you might want to leave the high-tech car crashes on the back burner, and no outer space, et cetera, et cetera. So what I started doing was every third or fourth script, I wanted to be something that I could just make myself. Something that, hey, if I had to just make this with an iPhone, I could. And so that's how Loner came to be. And that's how Left at Wall came to be. I wrote both Loner and Left at Wall with the intention of making them. So, with Loner, it was really just learning how to crawl. I'd never done anything more elaborate than a sketch before, as far as a producer. I mean, I've played bit parts in other people's films. So, like, I've been on set before plenty, but I've never been, I've never directed. I've never been the person kind of running the shoot day. Like that was all. I've just been the person like, where do you want me to stand? Don't worry, I know my lines. That's it. And by the way, I will say this. It's really fun producing a film. It's really fun, like running the shoot days and coordinating all that stuff. But it's way more fun when you're just on someone else's set. It's way more fun when someone else has that headache and you're just happy to be there. But you know what? I've learned, because I've done not many, but I think I've done like one other movie since like just being in it. And I feel like because I had that experience making Left at Wall, I was able to be like a more helpful cast member. Like there were things that I just didn't even understand before that I like understand now. So like I was able to sort of, I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but I was able to be sort of like a more useful person on set than I was in the past, not out of any type of laziness or any type of not wanting to be helpful. I just didn't really know all the intricacies of the other jobs, and now I know a good bit more than I used to. There's probably still 1,000,005 things I don't know, but before it was 2,000,005. So yeah, so that's been really cool. But yeah, so Loner was just sort of learning how to crawl. Left at Wall was learning how to walk. I still feel like I don't know how to run, but that's what I'm working towards. And then in between that, I actually made a vertical series for a vertical film fest in Rome called Frank Azzurri. So we ended up making like 7 of those, and it's on a YouTube network that I am a contributor to called Status Quo News. It's the only scripted series they ever carried, but we did that in between, and that was kind of fun. So yeah, I've done a couple different things, all kind of different concepts, and uh, and yeah, I mean, I want to keep going. Like I said, I have 2 new things in production right now. After I finished Left at Wall, I said I don't think I'll ever make a movie again. But, about a month or 2 later, I was sending scripts out to start talking about the next one with people, because I mean, you get bit by the bug. And I'm sure you can relate to this. It's like I was like, yeah, I don't think I'll ever go through this again, but I'm full of poop, right? I mean, I'm full of it, right?
Mm.
I was like, yeah, I'm never gonna do this again. Except, yeah, I'm gonna do it again like as soon as possible. Because I think I saw something on like a film. I like there's a podcast that I really like called the Micro Budget Filmmakers Podcast. I don't know if you ever listened to that.
I don't. Mm.
It's on hiatus right now, but they still do like a newsletter and stuff like that. It's a cool podcast for anyone that is into indie film, especially at the micro budget level, which I think most of us are at. Unless I mean most of us, it's usually between $0 and $250,000, unless you're pretty prominent. But um, but yeah, so they said something to the effects of you're always working on your next film because you know that as much of a headache as it can be, it's a much, much, much bigger headache to not be working on something and to just fill that empty, like you're just feeling kind of a sense of emptiness.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I guess that's basically why I started doing what I do and why I'm sort of at this point now. So
That
I
sounds
don't know if
cool.
I don't know if I answered your question even, but
Well, my question
but
was
I
kind
think
of
that was
vaguely phrased anyway.
that works for me. Yeah.
You mentioned the funding process in that last answer, and I was curious, like you crowdfunded for Left It Wall. Can
Partially,
you
yeah.
just like describe that funding process and the other ways that you got the money that you needed to make it?
Sure. It's not. I mean, it was pretty much just the same old story, to tell you the truth. I mean, Loner, I just sort of it was sort of like a collaboration type thing. Like everybody, it was either like on a trade or something like that. Like we traded. Like, hey, if you help me work on this, I'll help you work on this. It was like that kind of thing. Like I help some people out with certain things, they help me out with Loner. So Loner was just a total trade, and Loner made no money. So in the case of Left at Wall, I financed the trailer myself. I just, financed the trailer completely out of pocket. Used that trailer to do a GoFundMe, and the GoFundMe went well. I mean, the GoFundMe was successful. I didn't get quite as much as I wanted, but given the fact that we were in a pandemic and people were out of work, and the fact that we landed on top, I'll take it. Um, and then the rest of the funding for Left at Wall was small level investors, and by small level I just mean nobody put up like a huge, like no one gave us $1 billion or anything like that, but it was all just like basic points back investors, and that ranged from people who a lot like different listeners, like listeners of my podcast and people that know me from my stand up that said, hey, you're making a movie, I have a little bit to invest and I'd like to do so. Some of it was family members, some of it was friend, like an old high school friend I hadn't talked to in years, reached out and said, hey, I've been following you since the beginning and I love what you're up to. I think it's awesome you're making a movie and I'd like to be part of it. So yeah, I mean, basically, one investor at a time, and before we knew it, we had enough to make Left at Wall.
That's very cool. The movie has a lot of really good banter between the individual characters. There's a lot of like one-on-one conversation scenes, and they like, um, there's a lot of good back and forth in it. And in the loner interview you did with Sam, you mentioned that you use your script as kind of like more of a blueprint in the, especially when you're going to
Yeah,
be
a little
leading.
bit. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a scriptman element to Left at Wall where And Loner was not that way in comparison. Loner was because everybody was just a VO in Loner, except for the guy on screen who was me. So Loner was very much like people didn't deviate from the script at all. Whereas it Left It Wall, um, there was more room for kind of if somebody wanted to improv a certain thing, we could do it for a take or two and see what made the cutting room. And also you had, I mean, Gareth Reynolds, who played Don in the movie. He's one of the best improvisers I know. I mean, he's incredible. So yeah, I mean, there was definitely plenty of takes where he just sort of went off, and it was amazing. I mean, he there were a couple times where we had to cut because somebody just couldn't control it and they started laughing because he's just so freaking funny. And yeah, it was amazing to work with Gareth and everybody else. I mean, I will say this, and I know this is not a common story, so I consider myself incredibly fortunate. I got every single person on my wish list. Like every single person who I want, they were my first choice for the role. Everyone was able to do it and said yes. So I consider myself incredibly fortunate. The super ironic thing is the only casting I was not 1,000. Oh, are we still recording? Is something
Yeah,
wrong?
yeah.
You okay?
No, I was just
Okay.
checking.
All right. No, I feel you, dude. It always gives a certain amount of neuroses, right? When you're when you're in charge of the tech, if
Yes,
anything.
definitely. I've
But
messed it up before and had to.
no, I
So.
feel you, dude. I feel you. That's why I was like, we okay? But no, the only the only cast member I was not 1,000% sure of was myself. I was not totally sure that I was gonna play John. Um, but if I'm being brutally honest with you, the budget really looked a lot friendlier if I pay John or if I played John because that Rob Placone guy I didn't have to pay. That's the one guy I didn't pay that guy. He's a sucker, that dude. Because I did not pay him a dime. And but hopefully he'll get something in the long run. That's the hope, right? But
Mhm.
um, but yeah. So by playing the main guy, that saved. That's why. I mean, look, that's why basically all of my castings and my stuff. I'm an economical choice for me. That's so that's how that works. But yeah, I if I would have received a bigger dollar amount, I can guarantee this: I for sure would not have directed. I for sure would have gotten a director, at least to co-direct it with me at the very least, and then maybe I probably still would have been like an assistant director, but I would have had someone else, do the lion's share of the directing. And there's also a chance I wouldn't have played John. I would have gotten someone else to play John just to put their spin on it. I mean, that's sort of the trade-off. Like if you play a part you wrote, you're guaranteed it's going to come across exactly the way you have it intended.
Mhm.
Like John came off exactly the way I wanted him to because I played him. But when someone else plays them, then you're going to get a certain addition, a certain spin that might make it even better than what you had on the page, or just add to it in some way. So it's a trade off. But in this case, I was the guy who was set to play John, and that's the way it went. And I enjoyed playing him. I hope people are okay with my choice there. Um, but yeah, I mean, everyone else, it was like my first choice. Said yes and was able to do it. So I consider myself very very lucky in that regard. And yeah, I mean, it was we had an amazing team too, from the DP to the editor to the sound mixers and just everything. Everybody really really showed up, and it was an amazing experience.
Awesome. My last question before we talk about what you're working on now. If you had to pick a favorite scene from the movie, could you pick one?
I've been asked that question before, and my favorite scene, admittedly, my favorite scene in Left It Wall is the credits. Because every time the credits show up, you know that you made it through another take. I mean, we spent so much time in the editing room with that feature film, like you do with any feature film. And so every time the credits hit, you made it through another pass. So that's kind of my joke answer. But there's a lot of scenes that I mean, the bar scene I really appreciate in the movie. And I'll give a behind the scenes story there. So, um it's hard to kind of give this behind the scenes story without like giving anything away in the plot. But basically, the person who played John, the main character, his significant other, the actress who played her, ended up getting a pretty substantial offer that could not be refused right around the time we started shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically, I mean, I don't think I'm allowed to go into a ton of detail, but it was basically a regular gig on a pretty sizable platform. We'll just leave it at that. And so obviously when she told me, I said, look, I completely understand. You need to take that job. Like I would never, like I completely and totally understand. A little indie film cannot compete with that, and this is your career. But we were able to tweak everything in a certain way that we only needed her for 1 day of shooting. So I rewrote a lot of the script and I tweaked a lot of things to make it so that I only needed her for 1 day as opposed to recasting, a main role within 48 hours, which could have been done if it had to be because it's Los Angeles. But fortunately, we were able to just tweak the script in a way. So the bar scene was different than I had intended it to be originally. But that took the scene in a totally new direction. Like I rewrote it in a way to incorporate Sarah, the character's name is Sarah, to incorporate her not being there. So that kind of took it in a different direction. And I feel like I like the way it turned out better than if it would have just been the original scene. So I love that scene a lot. I love, Dax Murphy, the right wing radio personality played by my buddy Graham. I mean, Graham did an amazing job as Dax. I love just the first scene between Alex and myself, which there's a funny backstory there. Alex, the actress who played John's producer, she is part of a very popular podcast called Sturdy Wheelbarrows. It's a very popular and funny sketch podcast in the UK. It's one of my favorite podcasts over there. One of my favorite podcasts, period, actually. And when I got the idea for that scene and was writing it, I thought that her voice would be perfect for it. And then I also realized, given the dynamic of the scene, I could ask her to do it because the scene's remote.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's actually a very private person, even though she's on this podcast. So I had to reach out to the host of the podcast and I just said, hey, this might be a little weird, but I'm a filmmaker in LA. I'm a huge fan of your guys' podcast. And I didn't even know her real name. I said, I want whoever plays Tina Bobshed to be in my movie. Could you put us in touch? And he did, and we've all become friends since, which is really freaking cool. But yeah, he put me in touch with her name's Alex, and she was down. She was into it, and she did an amazing job. I loved the way she played that role. It was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted. And then and now I'm supposed to hopefully be in the next season of their podcast. They wrote a thing for me,
Nice.
and I was it's a little bummer situation though. Alex was supposed to come to our London screening. She doesn't live in London. She's like a few hours outside, but she was supposed to come to the London screening, and I was so excited to meet her. And basically, her train got messed up, and she didn't make it in time.
Hmm.
She ended up getting stranded and had to just go back home. She never made it to London, so it was such that was a big bummer. I was so excited to meet her, but hopefully we'll all get to meet in person, sooner than later. But yeah, so and then Sally knocked it out of the park as the porn star. I loved doing those scenes with Sally. Uh, Krish Mohan is a very funny comic out of Pittsburgh, one of my closest friends. And he played John's manager. And he was, I mean, again, I envisioned him playing that, and he did it exactly how I expected him to, and it was perfect. So yeah, I mean, I can't and then the Red Room team with Lizanne and everybody there, Adrian and Alicia, they were just such a fun Red Room team. When I saw their videos, I knew they were perfect for that part of the movie. So yeah, I mean, and then Dave, there was a little bit of an Easter egg because the person who fires Dawn in real life is Dave Anthony, and Dave Anthony and Gareth Reynolds co-host the Dollop podcast together, and they have very fun banter between them. So for any Dollop fans, that's a fun little Easter egg where Don's boss was played by Dave Anthony, who fires him. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I guess I can't say I have a favorite scene because it all. I was very fortunate that everything kind of panned out exactly how I wanted it to. Not immediately. I mean, it took a lot of
Mhm.
time and work and coordination and years of effort. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was like this is what I wanted to make. And so yeah, but every time you hear those credits, you're like, all right, we made it through another pass. And I really I'll give a shout out to all the music too. I mean, some of my the Heavenly States, Who I See, Fire Tiger, these are all people who allowed me to use their music for a friends and family rate, like a very, very reasonable fee. And they wanted to be part of it, which meant a lot. And they went above and beyond for that, as far as, allowing their art to be part of this movie and allowing, that was basically their way of helping me break into this world. And so I'm infinitely appreciative of that. And it has not gone unnoticed, which means a lot to me. A lot of people have complimented the soundtrack, and that has all I did was just I was blessed to have this at my disposal, and I just put the aces in their places. That's all I did. I mean, that brilliant art is all on them. And the song in the credits, I did help write the lyrics for, so that's why it was just the obvious choice for the credits. So check out Who I See, check out The Heavenly States, check out Fire Tiger. Yeah, please check out those artists. I'm hoping to eventually make a Spotify playlist for the soundtrack, just in case anybody would be interested. I got to make sure that's okay with all the people involved,
Hmm.
but yeah, so there we go.
Cool. We got 8 minutes left. So what are the things you're working on now?
Yeah, well, let me, if it's okay, before I do that, if I could just plug again where everyone can find Left at Wall. You can find it. I mean, if I know we're on YouTube with this, so you don't even have to leave YouTube. It is available for rent or purchase on YouTube Movies. You can find it on Apple TV, rent or purchase. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on cable on demand. You can find it on Google Play. You can find it on Xbox. And if you can't find it, and if you want to, just email me. RonPlacone.com is my website. RonPlacone.com is where you can find all the ways to watch Left at Wall. And if you're having any issues, just let me know. We'll try to figure it out. But if you're on your smart TV, you type in Left at Wall, it comes up. And what am I working on now? So I'm working on a documentary that I fell into and cannot go into a ton of detail about yet. But you'll have to have me back for that one.
All right.
That was an unplanned thing. But and I'm working on my next feature, which is tentatively titled Termination Fee, and it goes after the American healthcare system. It's a contained piece. There's only technically three cast members, but one of them is just a VO on a Zoom call. And then the other two, it's a couple. So I play the guy in the relationship, and Sarah K. Gadot, who is also in Left at Wall, she plays Dawn's wife. She plays the spouse of the other character. So it's just Sarah and I. It's very heavy dialogue. And when we did the read through, we realized because it's a contained piece, we could also launch it as a stage play. So the plans right now that are not, that we're working towards is we're going to launch it at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Simultaneously, we're going to be shooting the film, and then we're just going to kind of go the aggregator route for it and kind of get it distributed that way while simultaneously doing the stage play and seeing where it goes. I mean, we might try to franchise it nationally on stage and then, use that as a promotional vehicle for the film itself. Kind of like how like House of Yes or Virginia Woolf, we're kind of making it something like that. So that's an exciting way to do a film that's a little different. We're certainly not the first people to do it, but we won't be the last. And so I'm real excited about that. I am not a theater person at all. The last time I did theater was in high school, but here we are, launching a stage play, and it's been a blast so far. Fortunately, Sarah has a lot of theater experience. She used to run a theater in Chicago, so it was awesome that not only did she read the script and was down to be the character, but she also had the theater experience that neither Drew or myself had. So we're kind of like we're kind of a power trio. Like it's Drew, myself, and Sarah. We've been rehearsing once a week. We did a part one preview in December that was pretty well received. We did it at a comedy club. The night was sold out, And yeah, the next stop is going to be the Hollywood Fringe. So yeah, that's my next project. I don't have any formal announcements to make yet. It's all been behind the scenes. But for anyone in the Los Angeles area, you can tentatively mark June on your calendars. You should be able to see it on stage then. And as for the movie, once we get it in the can, people will be the first to know.
Awesome. Thanks for talking to us again today, Ron.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having
that's
me, man.
Left at Wall, everybody. Check it out.
Left at Wall, ronplacone.com is my website. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. All right, everybody, that's our show. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you again to Ron Placone for joining us this week. Next episode will be about Severance, Season 2, and probably a lot of Season 1. Alex and I will probably go for a little bit about that. I will be watching it, unlike Captain America. Anyway, sorry again that Sam couldn't be here to host. He told me he had to initiate Rogue Protocol or something, and I haven't heard from him since. So we'll keep you up to date when he's back. Bye.